Hello friend, my name is Kiri, and I thought since it is October, we should review at least one horror anime, and what better horror anime to review than Ghost Stories. Specifically, Ghost Stories the dub. Created by Studio Pierrot or Pierrot, and dubbed by ADV Films, Ghost Stories tells the story of Satsuki, a middle or elementary schooler that moves to her dead mom's hometown for reasons I don't think were ever actually stated. She and her brother meet their neighbor Hajime Aoyama and classmates Momoko and Leo, who of course become friends with their main characters before finding out that their hometown is actually haunted. After watching this opening about 60 times, I still have literally no clue whatsoever how the creators deemed it even remotely relatable to a horror anime. It honestly looks like it belongs more in a slice of life story. There are like clips of them laying in a field and walking home, and yeah, there's that one bit where Satsuki is looking at a skeleton and there are the shadows of some ghosty goose crossing the street. But seriously, it was like they started making the opening for a slice of life anime, and then halfway through they were like, oh shit, this is for horror anime, quick, someone throw some scary shit in there. And then that was how they made the opening. Also, I want to point out how our dear characters are cannonballing into a river that is like 6 inches deep. Because logic. The song was nice though. I honestly don't know the name or who it was by because I honestly don't care, but editing Kristen is probably going to feel bad at some point for not telling, so she's going to put it here. It's an upbeat song that, again, just has no business being associated with a horror anime. As for the closing, I'm not going to give it its own segment, I'm just going to describe it to you, so we're going to do a little mashup this time around. The closing is just credits going over some pictures, and I don't really know what the song is about or what it's called, but the only English words in that song are sexy, sexy, wow. So again, I feel like at some point, the creators and the people who made the openings and the closings just got some wires crossed, and so like I said, we are specifically reviewing the dub because if you weren't already aware, the dub and the original Ghost Stories are two completely different series. The original was so absolutely, positively, abominably terribad that when it came for ADV Films to dub it, they were told to just keep the bare skeleton of the series, of the story, you know, skeleton maybe missing a few ribs, and to just do whatever the hell they wanted. So they did. They just completely YOLO swagged the crap out of it. The result was a beautifully made comedy that I have watched 3 separate times in the last month. Now, let me start off by saying that the base plot of this anime is so absolutely painfully cliche that it doesn't take much for anyone to figure out how this ended up as like a dollar bin, no one gives a shit about anime that without the dub probably would have never seen the light of day ever again. I mean, really, some kid with her toddler looking brother moves next door to some punk kid that I swear to God wears a windbreaker throughout the entire series because 90s, and the town happens to be haunted, and her mom happened to leave this very convenient guide on all of these different ghosts, which it's illustrated, by the way, in what looks like crayon, and she gives a very detailed explanation as to how they're supposed to exorcise each demon and ghosty goo. My brain just decided to fall apart, so we're just kind of stuck with this for now. But what's sad is that this was actually supposed to be a 20-episode anime, but it ended up only being 19 released episodes because for some reason, episode 3 or 4 was deemed too frightening to air on TV. Now, I know that Japan isn't exactly known for producing good horror. If anything, they're kind of notorious for producing bad horror, because nothing they ever make is actually scary. So maybe they're just not used to something that may be a little frightening. But this is like a level above Scooby-Doo scary. So I can't honestly believe that the Japanese population is so ridiculously skittish that something like this was deemed too scary to air. And as a result, only 19 episodes were released. But I digress. In this case, the archetypes and the absolutely predictable story really worked in the dub version's favor, because throughout the series they make a lot of jabs at how the episodes are progressing. They make a lot of jokes at just all of the cliches in general, such as having the characters say they don't really know which series they're currently ripping off, whether it be The Ring or The Grudge, or a joke about Hajime striking the stereotypical anime hands behind the head with your elbows up in the air pose. By embracing these stereotypes and making self-aware jabs, ADV Films really made what was literally the most unimpressive anime of all time into something that was not just tolerable, but made you appreciate each and every horrific trope that was thrown in your face. Think of this sort of like the anime version of Family Guy or Futurama. They make a lot of jokes that are very relatable for their Western audience, because the dub was specifically made for their Western audience, obviously, such as making jokes about celebrities or politicians, swearing, because everyone knows that Americans really love to swear their off. I think Kristen's gonna have a field day with this video. Tasteless retard jokes, and of course, sex jokes, especially this gem.
Think of a big black man chasing you! Well, he's not racist.
And each episode has its own self-contained story, so you can watch each of these episodes in basically whatever order you want, except for the last episode, because episode 20, technically 19, has all of the ghosts somehow resurrect even though they have already been exorcised and they do stuff. The episode is kind of a mess, but who cares, because it's not like we're watching this series for the plot. So, if we're honest, I'm making this review because I needed to justify just how much time I've spent watching this series in the last month, because I wasn't exaggerating. I literally watched this 3 times in the past month, and I have hardly watched anything else because my 5-year anniversary is coming up and I've been sinking into a horribly deep depression, and I thought if I am going to keep my ass on schedule, I need to do something about this, so Ghost Stories came to the rescue. But this ended up being the hardest goddamn review I have ever written. It took me 2 weeks to write this review. 2 goddamn weeks, can you believe that? Seriously, it's like trying to write a full review on something like South Park. Go ahead, try it. You can't do it. But what I wasn't able to comment on in the previous segment was how the voice acting just 100% brought everything together. With the exception of Momoko's voice actors, because I feel like they intentionally picked someone that kind of had this grating voice that just really got under your skin, because she's essentially the embodiment of every Westboro Baptist Church member ever to exist, so we're not really supposed to like her, and she's supposed to be kind of annoying. But every time she was on screen and she was talking, I was just like, but everyone else not only did a fantastic job at bringing their characters to life, but they completely blew my expectations out of the water. They did a fantastic job. I honestly don't think ADV Films could have picked a better cast for this series. Then there was the soundtrack, which was meh, and the visuals, which were meh, even for like the early 2000s, late 90s, whenever this came out era. So there's not really a whole lot to talk about on that. But those are my thoughts on Ghost Stories, the dub. Have you seen it? Do you want to be an Air Force Ranger? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, you can find all of my social media as well as my Patreon in the description. Happy unbirthday, and I will see you later. Bye!